So once upon a time, three podcasters and storytellers, like you guys should see what just happened this past week. There is this whole thing that came out of the blue, and that's what we're going to talk about today. We actually had another topic planned. We had guests booked, and it was a wild hair thing that kind of occurred. And basically, we've made some significant decisions over the past just week and a half, and that's what we're going to talk to you guys about today.
Basically, I got a brand new lighter in a jar of kerosene, and I said, "Dude, let's go to town."
Well, kind of. Actually, well, okay, so this was a wild hair idea that started in a conversation with Leanne, who we'll talk about shortly. She's our new content manager for Smart Artists. And it started as a conversation between me and Leanne and Johnny in Slack on Monday or Tuesday. And then by Friday, we were like, hey, this is kind of a serious idea. Dave, what do you think? And we expect Dave to hate it because he hates everything. And he's like, fuck yeah. So then it's 1 week later and we're talking to you all.
So with that tease said, do we want to divert into something cool, or do we want to just keep rolling and not tease people?
No, I totally want to do something cool because I have one that I'm excited to talk about, actually. But I don't need that. Well, okay, so have either of you guys heard of the marvelous Mrs. Maisel?
I have seen the ads for it on Netflix.
Dave, have you?
What is it? I didn't hear you.
It's I think it's called the marvelous Mrs., but it might be Ms. Maisel.
I actually think it's Hulu. Is it? Or is it Amazon?
No, it's Amazon Prime for sure.
Okay,
yeah, it's Amazon Prime. Okay, I didn't know this until the end of the first episode, but it's actually the follow-up from Amy Sherman-Palladino, who did Gilmore Girls. It's her show. And it is fantastic. It's like my favorite fresh thing I've seen this year.
I bet they talk a lot.
They do talk a lot. they do talk a lot. Yeah, of course.
Gilmore Girls was like made for you.
The repartee?
Yes, there is. But it's also about stand-up comedy. And I love the lead. Do you remember the hooker with the heart of gold in the first, second, third season of House of Cards?
I haven't seen House of Cards. So
Dave.
Yes, I do. Yes.
Okay, so she's the lead, but she's nothing like you would never know. I only know because I looked it up on IMDb. She's nothing like that. She is phenomenal. It takes place in 1958, so it's got kind of a Mad Men setting.
Yeah, when I won't spoil what happened in House of Cards, although I imagine
I know what happened to her.
It is on my list. I am planning to get.
But what happened with her was actually what turned me off to the show, and I haven't watched an episode since then.
Yeah, me too, dude. Me too. So. Anyway, it's really, really good. And it's kind of funny that I've always wanted a show about stand-up, and I've had three. And I've enjoyed them all, but this is my favorite. I really, really liked I'm Dying Up Here. But this, I'm on the last episode. I'm going to see it tonight. And I love it to pieces. I like the dialogue. I like the setting. I like the writing. I like all the acting. It's just really great. So I can't say enough nice things about it. Really check it out.
Dave?
I don't know. I have a feeling that the thing I want to do is also the thing that you're going to want to do.
Me? No,
No?
Well, I'll just go because there's zero chance that you're...
And Dave, actually, you should go last because I think I know what your thing is going to be, and it's a perfect lead into our conversation.
As do I. This is the mystery box episode. You guys aren't going to know what we're talking about. You don't know Dave's something cool. You don't know what the fuck that stuff was at the beginning.
That shit works. Ask JJ.
Give me a cliffhanger.
Yeah. No, mine
should end with no resolution and make you buy the next episode.
Kate Morgan says, what I missed? Nothing yet. That's the beauty of it. You haven't missed anything because we didn't actually tell you guys anything yet.
Something big.
Something big and something cool. So anyway, my something cool is a little off the wall for me today. It's not the sort of thing that I was normally, would have thought I was into, but my son has been watching a lot of anime. It's just something he got into. And we've been watching Death Note. And did you ever watch any of Death Note, Sean, or just hear about it from Haley?
Well, I can't say I watched it. It was definitely on when I was in the room. But I only watched one episode with Haley. But she was really into the show for a while.
I dig it. Now it's really long, and so we haven't actually gotten through the entire arc yet. But it's not perfect. Like there's stuff in there that as a storyteller, I'm like, okay, I would have done that a little differently. But it's a very intricate storyline of who knows what and cat and mouse stuff, and I thought it was very, very cool. So I'm digging it. And I didn't think I was an anime guy, but I like it.
I saw the live version.
That apparently was terrible.
I heard that's terrible. Haley could only make it halfway through, and she said, "I give up."
I liked it all right. I think I imagine if I saw the cartoon, I'm not calling it anime. Fuck that. It's a cartoon. Okay. If I had seen the cartoon, then I probably
Anime is a genre, dude. Don't be a dick.
No, I'm calling it a cartoon. It's a cartoon. It's animated.
Yes,
Hence
but
anime being an even better title, if that's your definition. Anime head.
And I say this as a cartoonist. All right.
wow, Dave got dicky all of a sudden. Maybe it's a good time to have this episode.
So my something cool is Eminem's album that came out today. Although I haven't had a chance to listen to all of it, and there were a few songs that I did not care for, like a regression back
There
to.
are always songs. Like every album has songs that are just, wow, this guy's amazing, and wow, this dude is
And he
repugnant.
talked about murder and rape, and you're like, what the fuck? I mean, do you really have to appease those people that are like, I am very disappointed that there was neither a
Remember
murder
back
or
in
a
the
rape
old
song on
school
this
days? He doesn't talk about raping anymore.
Yeah, okay, I would like to talk about this because I feel profoundly disappointed in this album. Now, granted, it only came out this morning, and I've worked all day, so I haven't listened to it much. Only, I went out for
Have
a
you
couple
heard
of
Eminem's reaction to Sean Platt disapproves his new album?
A 15-minute.
There was a writer with a big nose. I can just hear it.
Fuck Platt.
Okay, all right. So I know I need to give it more of a chance, and I know,
Some albums grow on you. Like there's albums of his in the past that I did not like, and then I like them a lot.
Absolutely. I like Encore way more now 10 years later than I did when it came out. So I'm absolutely willing to give it a try. But I can still say, even if I like it, and musically it was fine. Like, there was some good stuff going on there. But thematically, it's a disappointment. And it's because this album, not to be grandiose, but I kind of was waiting my entire career with Eminem, my entire time of enjoying watching him. I thought that this was the album he was going to deliver, something new and something different. And Marshall Mathers' LP2 that came out, 4 years ago, was a perfect end. It was a perfect close to all the shit, all the Slim Shady Eminem like bullshit, all the misogyny, all the homophobia, he already
hating his mom.
All the hate in his mom. Like he even had a sequel to Stan. He had the Headlight song where he apologizes to his mom. He has the Stan song where he's talking to the demon. I'm the polyps on the back of your throat, right?
That's a great song.
Did he bitch about his mom again in this album? I haven't heard the entire thing.
No, there's a little bit in there it's not bitching. It's more growth, I guess, in that one area.
Okay.
Yes, but it is retread. And then I feel like the pre-framing on this album, and this all has a point actually to today's actual episode. The pre-framing on this album, I was really excited about. So if you look at a year ago when he dropped Campaign Speech, that was unlike anything I'd ever heard from him before. Awesome. Okay, what's next? And then he's got Walk on Water. No. Then it was that Trump diss after the Hip Hop Awards. And it was like, okay, dude is ready to play some ball.
And then the Beyonce song.
And then, no. Okay, but I was actually totally fine with the Beyonce song. I like it way more a month ago than I do now. Because
I like it even less.
Of framing, like, okay, this is the opening song. He's kind of setting the stage. He's coming out there as an orator and saying, I'm about to, like, I know I have a lot of expectations to live up to. Now I'm here. And then the next one was Untouchable, which the beginning of that song is a total mess. But the second half is really good. And it was the first time.
I like the whole song. I did not have a problem with the first half. That you were in my head when I was listening to it.
Yeah, I didn't like the first half, but I thought the second half was really good. And I thought that I liked what he did, again, if it was framed with the whole album, but it's not. When I actually hear the whole album, it's kind of a mess. And I like the second song, the Untouchable song, because it was the first song I can ever remember in his entire career where he's not talking about himself. It's about other people. And I thought that was growth. That was great. And then I get the album, and he still has like a rape fantasy and a murder fantasy, and he's still like bitching about the same things. And the whole album, I'm like, oh my God, there's just no thematic growth here. And I'm feeling more and more disappointed. And then he ends with the two final songs are fucking incredible. he pulls off this storytelling thing it's over 2 songs. There's 7 acts, and then the final act totally rearranges everything that you just heard before, and it's just stunning. And if he had had that kind of thematic quality from beginning to end, it would have been his best album. Instead, it's his worst.
Well, it's not his worst. It's not his worst by far. And there's like 19 songs. All he had to do is delete 4 of them, and it'd be a great album.
But it's not tight. It is his worst album because there's no focus, there's no growth. He's already closed all these chapters. He had an opportunity to say something new, and instead we get an album of a 45-year-old man who is clearly having an identity crisis.
So speaking of focus, how does this tie into what we're doing today?
Well, I think that it was time for him to grow. I think that he's echoing. He's saying the same things over and over. He's not saying something new or in a new way. And that's a shame because he is such a magician with words. He is like my dream. If I was a billionaire right now, the album I would make, I would spend as much money as I could possibly spend to get Bob Dylan and Eminem in a room to record an album, because they are both just masters of story and metaphor. But Bob Dylan would bring the best. He would bring the humanity out of Marshall. And he would say new things in a new way, because he's just so articulate. He is so such a wizard with words. And I keep wanting him to say more. I keep wanting him to be better than he is. And you can see that he's stretched. And this time he just said, I don't really care. Like
I would add one more person. Since you have all the money in the world to spend on this album,
yes,
get LP from Run the Jewels to do the music, and then it would be perfect album.
Okay, all right, I'm with you. We can go into this together. But like, it's just I think he fell short. So like, there's one song, I think it's called "Welcome Home" or "Leave Home" or something. It's the one with Alicia Keys, where now he's actually to me that falls so short. He's actually taking on the president, but he doesn't say anything new. And here's a guy who can eviscerate with words. There's no evisceration here. He was playing softball. He hits Drake harder than he hit the president. And there's so many things he could have said, so many boxes he could have opened, but he didn't. He talked about him playing golf, like with the KKK. Like he went for cheap shots. Although I do like the line where he says, even my cheap shots are overpriced. That was pretty awesome. But I just think that he could have done more, because there's things that he could say that nobody else in the world can say. And for us, I feel that's very true. I think there are things that we can say that no one else in the world can say. And we haven't been saying those things. I think that we have been failing ourselves and our audience.
Like, I hate you all?
And yes, I hate you all is actually a perfect example. But they're like, let's rewind.
Well, let me circle back. That's actually what I was going to do. So this discussion began because we recently hired Leanne as our. It's kind of like Christine recently left us, and she's kind of filling Christine's role, but also kind of not. Like, we reimagined that entire smarter artist manager, the person who's basically in charge of anything that you guys at the Self Publishing Podcast would care about. That's Write, Publish, Repeat, and the Summit, and any of our nonfiction books or any courses, Apprentice, Boot Camp, all those things. Those are smarter artists. And so we're looking at like what new content do we need to create? How can we structure that so that it makes sense for you guys, that it's maximally beneficial? And Leanne is great at that. And so we've had some of these discussions.
Yeah, actually, let me just poke in there just for 1 second, because I know that if you're listening to this and you've been listening for any length of time, you probably heard like, oh, they're rebranding the Smarter Artist, more content coming, a blog. But the difference is that this is a plan that we've had for a really long time. But when we brought Christine in, we gave Christine 39 million things to do. And so we never had, like, getting our content program was one thing of the entire plan, and we never were able to focus on it. The difference this time is we have a person, and that is what they are in charge of. We're not throwing, dozens of other things in front of them. They are going to get to just do that.
Right. We've grown up a lot, and without going too behind the scenes, 2017 was a year that Sterling and Stone kind of ate its vegetables. Like, we really learned a lot of hard lessons and put a lot of things in order and really swept the floor, to use Sean's metaphor, to get ready for 2018, which is something that we've been saying since 2014. Get ready for 2018. That's going to be our year. So anyway, when we started talking about this with Leanne, the podcast as one of our major content distribution avenues, or discussions with the community, came up. And it came, I think Sean said something and I said something in two slightly different ways. And the bottom line was, boy, I just wonder if we're kind of outgrowing the idea of the self-publishing podcast. Because when we started this, it was 2004. No, it's been longer.
11, dude. No, 2012.
2012, we started the self-publishing podcast. So, 6-ish years, I remember.
It was long enough ago that we could call it the self-publishing podcast.
that URL wasn't taken or anything like that. And so we started this podcast with the idea that we wanted to kind of share our journey as self-publishers. And so we did. And the first shows were very nuts and bolts. How do you get an ebook together? How do you put them up? And then we started talking about funnels and write, publish, repeat, and all the things that you guys who've been listening to this really kind of know as our hallmarks and our major pillars of our content. And so what we started to realize, what we have started to realize over, it's been a creeping realization, is that name and that framing has been holding us back, because
a lot.
We do so much more than self-publishing.
And all of you guys, the core people who have been listening to us for years, it's holding you guys back too.
And we must have known this on some level, because Sean and I started a private podcast for this.
Oh, this is such a good example.
And it's called Family Business, and it's only for the Stone Table. And in it, we share the process of the business and the things that we're learning and the big pieces. And we think like, well, should we share these things on SPP? And no, we started Family Business because they're the things that we can't share on SPP, because the audience that's attracted to a podcast called the Self-Publishing Podcast doesn't care about the things that we've been learning and growing into. And there have been a number of times where we've wanted to tell you guys about something that's really interesting creatively and big and interesting, but we can't because it's not related to self-publishing. Or we'll look to book guests and we'll say, yeah, but the audience is self-publishers. How can we possibly talk to that topic on this show?
Right. And we're diving so deep into story. I mean, if you look at what we're involved in now, self-publishing is certainly a part of it. In fact, we have more self-publishing going on in 2018 than we ever have before. We're publishing over 50 books in-house. We're working on...
It's going to be 3 books a week toward the end of the 2018.
Right. And we're building all the systems for that. We have full-time fiction hackers. Hacker now, it will be hackers by the end of the year. The amount of storytellers that we're talking to with Stories to Go will number in the hundreds.
We brought in 12 new people to do these things already that Sean's talking about.
Right. Outliners and writers, and we will be publishing. We'll know more. We're going to learn more in 2018 about indie publishing than we have in the last 5 years. We're going to have a slice of knowledge that is just super exclusive because of the amount of content that we're publishing and the amount of genres that we're juggling and the amount of staff that we have handling all of this. But still, it's only a fraction of our business, because we're also developing Story Shop and raising money for that and using story to do it, to do both, to grow the actual tool itself. And
all things that we haven't told you guys about because we figure you're not interested.
Right. So as we build Sterling and Stone out to be, its tendrils are getting longer. There's so much that we are depriving an audience of when we can talk about it. And when we came out with a self-publishing podcast, it really was an empty landscape. And we were able to just go out and be ourselves and talk about the things that we were doing each week. And that stayed really fresh and vibrant. And we were doing literally a show that only we could do. Now, if you look at the self-publishing landscape, there are a ton of shows who are doing a better job at it than we are. And we shouldn't be, like they just are. You look at, Mark Dawson's show, it's better. It's substantially better than our show week in, week out. So
Joanna's show is better. I feel like
Joanna's show has been better for years.
Yeah.
So
Joanna was before us and she was better, and now she's better.
Right. So
we suck. Why are we listening?
Well, that's the point. We're not doing the show that we need to be doing. We're not doing the show that only we can do. And so we are a story studio. We are a team of storytellers. We are now more than 24 strong, and there's a lot of storytelling know-how and growth there. But it's also, if you look at our network, this is an example that's been really clear in making this decision. We just got back from an event in Boulder, and there were 15 people at the event, and they're all entrepreneurs. but they're all like really amazing entrepreneurs who are doing amazing things and using story to build their business. And there was just such a deep wealth of knowledge and like fun knowledge. These are people who are really fun to talk to, and you just feel smarter just after one conversation. It's the perfect guest for us to bring on, because a guest, and we have found this, a guest is always going to be better if we have some rapport with them. If we know them ahead of time and we know that we've got stories to share, that's a great guest. And there's been a lot of situations where we're meeting amazing people who are doing amazing things, and we think that they have a lot to share and would really vibe well in this, platform, but we don't invite them on because it's the self-publishing podcast. What would they feel that even if I convince them, look, though, you'll have value.
Right, we can try and explain that a lot. Oh, well, it's not really just self-publishing. But even then, if they come on, number one, they're in a weird position. Their framing is strange for them. And number two, the whole time we're going to be thinking, I know I am, I don't know about these guys. I'm going to be thinking, man, this person is really interesting.
But how do we,
what about all those
back to self-publishing?
Right.
I'm usually just reading comments. I'm not even paying attention.
Well, that's actually another thing.
Right. Dave has not been into the show for like years. And we need him to be excited. And it's like Johnny and I, that's why we do family business, is because it's a place where we can be really excited about 100% of the things that we're talking about. And we feel like we're really delivering value. And if you look at the audience for family business, they love that show because it's so packed with value.
There's a ton. For the number of people listening to it, the conversation is way more than we ever see at Self-Publishing Podcast. And we love recording it. It's just, we have grown and we need to grow past the name, the limitation and the framing of this is a podcast about self-publishing, which is what it was.
And so relating this back to the Eminem album, because I do think this is parallel. In fact, I felt a lot of disappointment this morning until I was having lunch with Cindy, and I said, you know what? I'm actually really happy for the timing of this, because I feel like it helps me to articulate why this is such a positive move for us, because we have pre-framed you all. We've been talking about 2018 for a long time and how we're really going to deliver to the smarter artists. We're really going to deliver to all. We're basically going to answer every promise that we have started to make in the last 5 years. 2018 is the time when we really, really do that. And so why not up our game here too? Like, you all deserve it. We've been promising for 2018. So if you've been listening to us for a long time, this is not the loss of something. This is the gaining of something new and exciting and special, so that we can go back to the old days when we were, really hyped to come and share what's going on in our business every week. We'll tell you the name of the podcast later when we get album art and, it's up and all of that.
Oh, we aren't going to tell people the name? Okay.
Well, we don't have anything for it right now, but Johnny, do you want to explain how it's going to happen? How,
well, yeah, I mean, basically, okay, so let's get to the punchlines here. So, because I imagine a few of you are wondering this. So we're recording this at the end of 2018. It's December 15th as we record it. I believe this episode will air middle to end of January 2018. There will be, as we currently have it scheduled, one more episode after this, because we want to make sure that everybody hears all these episodes and stuff and give them an extra time. And I think the one after it is going to be our year in review, which we have still yet to record. After that, the podcast will change. The name will change, the art will change, the description will change. The three hosts will not change.
I thought I got to leave. Oh, that's the only reason I voted for this damn thing.
No, but you can be more yourself. Actually, anybody who's been listening since the beginning, you're gonna have a show that's a lot more like the show was a few years ago, honestly, where we're bringing in. It's just the only difference in the show really is that we used to talk about what we're doing every week. Like, this is what our business is like, and it had an immediacy and a frankness.
It's lost a little bit of it's lost a lot of its excitement for us. Now, I don't want that to reflect poorly on any of what we're doing, or just, I don't mean that to be disrespectful, but it's the truth. It's a little less immediate and exciting for us because we have to throttle what we talk about to make it fit in this box. I used to tell people when they asked me, when people used to ask me, what do you do? I'd say I'm a writer. And now I like, well, okay. And I have the whole thing. We make stories of smarter artists. And that means that we have an education side and a creative side. That's what this is. We've stuck with the I'm a writer version of that. And it's not as exciting for us anymore, whereas this is.
Yeah, Levi says this perfectly. We used to be able to see your ideas germinate, incubate, and take shape on SPP. It was radical transparency to let the viewers in on your motivations and made them feel invested in your success. Well said. And we don't have that anymore. We have it with the Stone Table, actually.
We actually purposely hold back. And here's the reason. Number one, because we don't feel that this audience is going to be interested. That's the number one reason. The other is because self-publishing, the actual publishing of books, is such that if we say things, it changes a significant chunk of our immediate landscape. And so when we published, I think it was No Escape from the CI side, a bunch of the also bots were like, sorry, No Justice.
No Justice.
Were like Chris Fox's
Shouldn't even
Right
say
to
the
Mark.
name of it.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I shouldn't. But the point is that we cross pollute. We can't talk about some of the things we're doing because it pollutes the algorithms for us. When we talk too much about our strategies, some people start doing the same thing in a way that messes up what we're doing. You know, like there's reasons that we can't do that. If we move into this new sphere, then when we move into this new sphere, what happens is we can be more immediate, like Levi was saying. Like this is something where suddenly we can just talk about what we're doing.
If the same people are listening, won't they also do the same things?
Yeah, but it's not just going to be about book publishing.
It's different. Yeah. Like, so for example, I don't need to talk specifics here, but you guys all know what the current Story Shop strategy is, right?
Yes.
Now, how, like, if and when we actually pull that off, how amazing, that doesn't have anything to do with self-publishing, but I would say 95% of the people listening here would be like hanging on every word of that story at the end. So we want the right place to be able to share kind of the amazing things that are unfolding. And there's so much about how you live life with story, how you build a business with story. It's just not about self-publishing. That language is limiting us.
So let me finish the what to expect. So I was saying that there would be, after this hits the feed, there will be, I believe, one more episode that hits the SPP feed. Then the art will change, the name will change, all that stuff. But you don't need to go anywhere. So if you're subscribed, if you automatically get the self-publishing podcast, it will take its place. You don't need to subscribe to anything new. You just stay where you are. We will do what we did before. We rebranded SPP and we still called it SPP, but we rebranded it, I don't know, a couple years ago, and we moved all the old episodes into an archive feed. We will do that again. So these episodes of SPP will now be the SPP feed, but it's old, it's classic. And you'll be seeing on your current feed that you're already subscribed to, if you are, you will see the new episodes under the new name. So you don't need to go anywhere. This is just kind of hang tight. And I do feel that if you're part of our core audience, then you will really enjoy this show. Like I think that I'm not worried about you guys running anywhere because I think that it's the same audience, but then it's also
right. I think the people who are only here to see what the next funnel that we come up with are, like, if they go, that's okay, because I mean, first of all, we're going to talk about the new funnels that we come up with anyway in the new place. But we're not going to be hunting for topics. There's a lot of times where we're hunting for, I mean, we can kill an hour. We're talkative people, but that's not the point.
You can kill an hour.
Well, I can kill an hour.
That's actually part of the point, is the idea of killing an hour. You know, we've artificially stuck to that. And there's the family business is a half an hour and they're tight. I think that we stop when we've said enough and it feels good, and it may be 40 minutes, it may be an hour, but it's this artificial, like, just bantering. Okay, hold on, we gotta, it just doesn't.
Yeah, no, we want a tighter, better show that is packed with value, and we can't artificially create value. That's the thing. We stumble around sometimes until we find the right way. So building a course was the same thing. Like, how do we deliver the maximum amount of value? And it wasn't a series of videos. We tried to figure that out for a couple of years, and finally we architected Stories to Go because that was the answer. We found the way to do it that provides the most value for the people who are involved. That's what we've been doing with the Stone Table, and the SPP has always been our biggest broadcast. And so, because that is wide and that is free, we got to it later. But we're there now. We're preparing for 2018, and this is kind of one of the last things we're sweeping the floor with. We've got this podcast, and we show up every Friday. We've showed up, almost every single Friday for 5 years now, 6 years. It's a long time. So going into next year, how do we make it better? How do we make it so that all three of us are really excited to be here every Friday? And that works for you too, because I guarantee you, if we're excited every Friday, you're going to get a kick-ass show, because we're doing amazing things and we're building amazing things and we're working with and building amazing things with amazing people. And there's just
to be able
wealth
to talk about that.
Yeah, there's just such a wealth of knowledge and experience that we're not able to share in the current environment, and we're done with that. So we want.
I'm sorry.
No, please.
Edward says, I don't like the show. The episodes I don't like are the ones that feel like an hour-long commercial for somebody else's service. And that's something that we never intend. And obviously we've never been paid to promote anybody except for 99 Designs and stuff.
There's nothing to lose there.
Yeah. But there are people that approach us, and there are times where we're like, okay, well, that sounds interesting. Maybe our audience will be interested, but because we don't know the people, or maybe we agree to things without really thinking it through, and then all of a sudden we're in a situation where it's not a good show for the guest, for us, for the audience, and we hate those. And that's a big part of why we're only going to have on people that we approach, that we find, that we believe will be of value to you.
Right. The vetting should come from us. And we do. Dave's right. We get a lot of pitches. Anytime we have somebody on who hasn't heard of our show, they don't really know us. We don't know them. It's just, I think automatically it dilutes, because our show is not an interview show. It's never been about that. It's about kind of our
conversation.
It is experiential, right? Everything we do is experiential, down to the way we run the podcast, and it has to remain that way. And we've been robbing you of the best possible show because we don't have the right tools. We haven't. But being able to vet our own guests, because these are people that we know doing amazing things, or they are introduced to us in a specific way. Just being able to really broaden our scope, especially as we go forward. Indie publishing, it's still such frontier. It's still so early adopter. We don't know how things are going to change, but we also know that we'll be stepping into a lot of transmedia stuff, talking about video games and comic books. And we've got a really cool audio drama project coming out this year. Those aren't self-publishing things, and we want to dig deep and we want to explore, and we want to do that with our core audience, and we kind of have to change neighborhoods to do it.
So let me hit a few of these questions. Just quickly, Sally, is the SPP archive feed available anywhere? Yeah, it's just called SPP Classics, and I think we have to figure this out, but I believe that the current batch of SPPs that are in this feed will just move into that one, and so you can search iTunes for it. Or I think that sterlingandstone.net/FM still redirects to our iTunes page. And then there's a question about the SPP Live. That will still at the summit. So for those of you who are going to the summit, we're doing a live SPP, although it won't be a live SPP. So we will do it, but it'll be the new show. But it'll be summit relevant. It will be, yes. It won't be like we won't talk about something.
It should be worst show ever.
Blue sky, yeah.
Dave, do you have plans to reboot the worst show ever?
Yes, we're going to bring in some experts to fine tune it and make it a more family-friendly show, I believe.
Okay, I'm actually serious. I think our worst show ever today, we should talk about the reboot. how we would make worst show ever even worse.
I would like to know from listeners, not now, not in the chat now, but at worst show ever, I would like to know what you would do with that show. So just think on that.
Oh, I think we just keep poking Dave with a stick. I vote as part of the revamp of this show that we finally do something about Sean's sound. That would be my vote.
Yes, I agree. I will do absolutely anything. I care deeply about this transition. I feel like it's about a year overdue, honestly.
It's exciting. It is. I feel that energy that's been missing, quite honestly. There's been a lot of the shows, and I think I speak for you guys as well, definitely Dave, that we are kind of phoning it in. Like, we are. It's, okay, I'm not really excited about this, but we'll get excited about it. But now it's that frontier, that bleeding edge stuff that we're going to be able to go back into. And I love that.
The fact that we can talk about our day to day and, like Levi said, we can talk about, well, this is our idea and this is where it's going and we'll see. And being able to just talk about our failures as they're happening live, talk about our successes as they're happening live. We've got a couple of things that aren't related to books at all that I think are kind of amazing, right? That are 2018 things. And I want to be able to talk about those, and I want it to be relevant, and I want to share.
So we'll see how you guys like it, how the core audience likes it. I do believe that a large percentage of our core audience will like and move over to this new show. I think that there will be some people who purely want to know the latest strategies in self-publishing.
But there's so many people doing a better job with that than
great.
us.
Go to Mark Dawson, go to Joanna Penn, go to the people who are doing those things better than us. And then I think we'll get a whole bunch of new people. The core audience here really hasn't grown a lot. And I think that tells us something too. We have people we could be reaching with our sort of unique superpower here that we haven't been because we haven't been going in that direction. So I think the community is only going to get bigger and better. And we've seen some of that even in like Stone Table Stories to Go, people who hadn't heard of us before. And then all of a sudden they do. And it's like, whoa, what is this magical candy shop that I've just entered?
Well, yeah, the Stone Table is actually a really good watering hole for that. You can see how it definitely grows past indie publishing in that space. And, those are our people. Those are people who are basically our target market is anybody who understands that story is the superpower you should develop most for the world of tomorrow. That in the future, the storytellers are going to have immeasurable power if they understand the mechanisms of how to leverage those storytelling skills into wider applications. And that is fascinating frontier. And we are uniquely positioned to execute in those
I'm hearing
conversations.
Kanye's "No one man should have all that power" as you.
It is interesting. Our company, we're very involved in publishing, obviously. We're over 100 books at this point. We're writing scripts. We've got the software. We're doing Stories to Go, which is knee deep. You don't get deeper into story development than that. That's story development with scale. But in addition to all the nuts and bolts story stuff, we have really kind of refined business and marketing backgrounds that are only getting deeper. And so as we're exploring this stuff and seeing the intersections of how story and life and business, open up all these doors, we could talk about that all day. And, even Dave wants to enter those conversations. Dave is more excited to talk about, the intersection of business and story than he is self-publishing, which tells you something. So I could not be more excited about this transition because I feel like the version of the show that we've done for the last year has kind of let everybody down. It's let you guys down, it's let us down, and 2018 deserves better, and we're ready for the challenge.
Yeah, and guys, there's some stuff that we can't share yet. That let's just say that business and story and brand story is like, that's going to be epic when we can share that. Like there's just a ton of stuff out there that's very interesting, very story related, but not necessarily publish your book on Amazon and Kobo interesting.
Yeah.
That's so really, really cool stuff. Big business, big money, big frontiers, big amazing changes in the world sorts of things that we want to do. So, all right. Any final questions or comments or anything like that we want to hit before we close this up? Notice I'm not going to artificially stretch it.
No, I did notice that. Yeah. I think it's awesome. It's apropos. I would just like to end with a promise because, 2018 has been a really long time coming, and we are ready. We are ready for you guys. We are ready to develop content, strong content with a strategy and a plan.
And we're through fucking around. Like, honestly, because there's been a lot of things where we're like, well, maybe we should make this course. Maybe we should do this. And we kind of, I don't know. I feel like our direction could not be more clear.
We're so aligned. The three of us are aligned. On a creative level, on a business level, which Dave tries to ignore as much as possible. Johnny and I could not be more aligned. 6 years has fused us together like crazy. And we're really, really ready for next year. We have all the right people in all the right places and all the right plans and all the right steps. And it's going to be a slow creep. But by this time next year, I mean, really, you're going to see some extraordinary things. We're really poised for this. And we want to build that bridge between what we're applying and what we're teaching. And that has to be a short bridge because it's been really messy for us. I mean, I love you guys, but the Smarter Artist has been really expensive for us as a general thing because we've put a lot of our time and a lot of attention there. We've pulled way back on our fiction production, which, just as it was really rolling into profitability. So 2018 is about making it as straightforward for us to help the larger community as possible to leverage our time, in more sensible ways. And if we have a show where it's really piped into a peak behind our studio as the engines are turning, then that's fun for us. It's exciting. And it's just high impact because you're getting a much closer look, and that's going to give you an exponential return on the time that you spend listening to our bullshit. And we owe that to you, and we owe it to ourselves. So hallelujah 2018.
I think the question on everybody's mind is, will there still be dick jokes?
Yes, absolutely. The show will be
more of a higher quality.
Yes. Well, now there will be
penis jokes.
Penis jokes. Well, no.
But I will say that when you mentioned Slow Creep earlier, I saw Dave perk up. I think he's going to write a book by that title.
I think he should.
Yeah. All right. So thanks everybody for listening to this. This is probably the last time. No, we got one more where I'm going to get to say thanks for listening to Self-Publishing Podcast. I'll probably still fuck it up. Like when we rebranded.
For a good couple of months, right?
Right. Like when we rebranded Better Off Undead to Worst Show Ever, I was still saying Better Off Undead.
I still call it Better Off Undead.
Yeah, BOU. So anyway, but thank you for listening to the Self-Publishing Podcast, not just today, but for the past however long you've been listening. For some of you, that is like 6 years, and that's hardcore and awesome.
Yeah,
so,
anybody who actually isn't following us along, like that's okay. Thank you so much for the time that you did give us. There's nothing more important in your world, in any of our worlds, than time. And the time that you spent with us. I hope that, among all the dick jokes and stupid bullshit, we did give you some gems here and there and helped you along on your journey. I hope that you follow us. And if not, I wish you well.
So just one more time, I do believe there's one episode after this on the actual feed, and then the new one will come in and you don't have to change anything if you're still subscribed. But I did mean to say this before. I don't know for sure that it'll be 1 week, then the next week. It's possible that we'll miss a week or two. So just hang in there. The new ones will be coming, and maybe not. Like maybe there won't be any break. I'd love for there to be no break, but it just depends on how quickly we can do it.
Beth asks if we'll do the new show live as well.
Yes, and we'd like to do more to encourage more live viewers also. Again, I think our excitement will breed excitement, and
we should try YouTube again.
Yeah, it's same time, same place. Like for you guys, just if you're a live viewer and you show up in the same place. If you're a listener, you just listen in the same place. Like nothing will change.
Yeah, we're trying to make this as simple as possible, but don't be surprised if all of a sudden we're not talking about Amazon specific funnels, and we're talking about well, I don't want to reveal our new episodes, but we have stories coming up. So anyway, thank you so much for listening. And I really hope you like what we have coming up. And if you don't, just good luck with everything that you're doing.
Thanks, everybody. See you next time.
Bye.